What's up, football fans? I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and don't forget to check out and grab your copy of our two latest book releases, Football: A Love Story and What Did Football Teach Me? Visit our website at footballgameplan.com/books and get your copies today. Welcome to NFL Game Plan. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, bring you our Week 2 breakdown between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. And we're going to break this game down in only a way Football Game Plan can. Keys to victory, coaching points, X factors, whiteboard workouts, film session breakdowns, and even fantasy football advice. But first, we're going to get this video kicked off by taking a look at our keys to victory.
Starting with the Lions in this ball game, they're going to have to learn to put teams away. They had San Diego beat early on in that matchup, 21-3 lead. They have to keep their foot on the gas and put teams away. Otherwise, they can find themselves losing like they did last week. And I would say delayed pressure versus Teddy Bridgewater could help them get him on the ground or frustrate their passing games. I will go with delayed pressure, whether it be from the inside or coming off the edge. And I would say your coverage units in the special teams department has to be huge. You're going up against some of the best return men in the game in Sherrills and also Patterson. You can't allow the Vikings offense to work with a half a field. And for Minnesota in this ball game is getting back to basics. I think they got cute last week versus San Francisco. Go back to what made you the Minnesota Vikings, running the football with Adrian Peterson and operating off play action. I think that way their offense could look a lot better than it did last week. And you have to protect the inside versus Matt Stafford. You want to force him to be consistently accurate going down the sidelines, take away the inside passing game. That way you can have some success versus this Lions offensive attack. And you have to get better run fits in this ball game versus Amir Abdullah, Joique Bell, even Zach Zenner. Detroit has some talented tailbacks. They go 3 deep, maybe even 4 deep with Theo Riddick. So you have to get better run fits. Otherwise, you could find yourself having the same problems that you did versus San Francisco.
As we saw last week versus the San Diego Chargers, Amir Abdullah did the same things against that Chargers defense that he did against teams in the Big Ten at Nebraska. And I'm going to show you how they can take advantage of an over-aggressive Vikings front that will probably be looking to rebound after what we saw last game versus San Francisco versus the run. So I'm going to show you how they can take advantage of that over-aggressiveness with an inside trap. Big fan of the inside trap. And what we're going to do is just draw it in the box because that's where the game is won. We're not going to even worry about the weak side backer on the outside. But what we're doing up front is all about blocking and influencing the over-aggressiveness of this defense. So what we're doing here, right off the bat, center is going to block it back right there. Boom. Block this 3-tech down. We're going to kick him out here. And what we're going to do, we're going to trap this 1-tech. So we're going to come up, bang, trapping him. Everyone's going over. Boom. Boom. And he's going to, zone and go outside this way. Because what we're going to do with the fullback, everyone's going to take their, Amir Abdullah is going to take his step over. That's going to influence flow. So now as Matt Stafford opens up, fullback is going to lead and get this backer blocked. Now we can hand it off right there. Good mesh point to Amir Abdullah, hitting it inside trap, taking advantage of this over-aggressive 1-tech with the weak side guard. Center's blocking back, clears the lane for the linebacker, fullback. Physical discussion right here in that A gap. And now you have Amir Abdullah hopefully running to daylight. But this is one way Detroit can take advantage of an over-aggressive Vikings defensive front that's looking to rebound after a poor performance versus San Francisco.
Opening up the Vikings playbook, I think it's about tying up loose ends. It's the little things in a football game that can add up and either help you or hurt you. For example, linebackers getting a hand on a tight end here to slow him down, which can cause a slight redirect and allow the safety to get over top. That didn't happen here versus San Francisco, and a better thrown pass would have been a completion. I don't think the Vikings can allow these minor things to continue to happen moving forward, especially in this game versus Detroit. Every second counts versus their passing game.
My X factor for the Detroit Lions is Amir Abdullah. He's a dynamic runner, someone that can catch the ball out the backfield as well. The Vikings are going to game plan to stop Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, and they're going to try to make them beat make the Lions beat them with someone other than those weapons. And I think Abdullah is the one for that. As far as the Vikings are concerned, X factor Adrian Peterson. He's going to have another game under his belt. He's back. He's a volume runner. He didn't get many carries last week. You need to give him the ball and allow him to get into that rhythm and get himself going. He's a guy that gets better as he has more carries, and he's always a breakaway runner. So my prediction for this game is Vikings 17, Lions 14.
The Lions and the Vikings will be an interesting matchup. The Vikings have an improved defense, and the Lions have a defense that's better than most thought with the loss of Ndamukong Suh. What I look for is the running game. Who will be able to establish a running game that's sustainable? I believe that last week, the Detroit Lions left a lot to be desired with their play calling, having a lead and then not leaning on a running game that was having so much success in the short term. I believe that hurt them and ultimately cost them the game. I think this week the coaching point will be to get the ball more in Amir Abdullah's hands and see what he can do with something in that 12 to 18 carry range. For the Vikings, I think their season will begin and end with how Adrian Peterson runs the ball. I look for the Vikings to get Adrian Peterson a lot more involved this week than they did last week versus San Francisco, and have him be more of a catalyst for Teddy Bridgewater to work more off play action. In the end, I think this will be a close game, a low score, but I like it 17-14 Vikings.
The Detroit Lions suffered a harsh loss last week, and their division foe, the Minnesota Vikings, did as well. Here's what's going to go on in this matchup. Calvin Johnson, who's usually quiet, is going to say, hey, Matt Stafford, throw me the doggone ball. He is a must-start this week, considering the fact the Vikings' secondary looked terrible this past week. As far as a sit, I know it sounds crazy, but they're going to try to make up for it. Amir Abdullah, who had a solid game, they're going to focus on stopping the run, knowing that Calvin Johnson is pretty much a wash for them. As far as the offense, Adrian Peterson, I think that even though that offense looked horrific trying to use him, you still have to start him and figure out whether or not it's something that can be written for the season. And as far as a sit, until Teddy Bridgewater gets comfortable, I have to sit him if that's the option. With that being said and put together, I do expect Detroit to come away with a victory here, 21-20 in a close one.
I like the Vikings in this ball game. I think the best game plan versus the Detroit Lions is to shrink the ball game and minimize their possessions. And the best way to do that is to go a little bit more conservative offensively. So you're going to see a lot of Adrian Peterson. Passing game will probably be a lot of play action, a lot more boots and waggles. It won't be the overly creative approach that we saw last week versus San Francisco, which will then have their defense well rested to get out there and get Detroit off the field. As we take a look back at our picks, Chris James is the lone wolf here going with the Detroit Lions. It should be a great game and a close one nonetheless. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Viking fan forums and Lion fan forums for always showing football game plan support.